In this video we're going to look at what you can bury in a garden to revive the soil. Is it possible to turn your garden into a giant compost bin to add nutrients to the soil for free? Yes you can, let us show you the best way to do it. Hi, I'm Rob from Sustainable Journey. I recently found out I'd run out of compost using it on all other parts of the garden. In the middle of a hot, dry summer, out of the way partly shaded areas of the garden start to look like premium real estate for growing plants. If only I had the forethought to do something about the poor soil in winter. Unfortunately, neglected and forgotten areas are that way for good reason. Nothing grows there because the soil is poor quality. Digging down I found no moisture, no worms, no organic matter, just a compacted, hard, dry dirt, old roots and rocks. The answer was to dig in some good homemade compost and this area would be thriving in no time. But no can do, the compost has been tapped out using it on the rest of the garden. I could always go and buy some premium bag compost from the garden centre and marvel at how much it costs to buy a bag of what in my opinion looks like expensive sawdust. Or could I turn this garden bed into a composting factory by burying compostable items in the garden for free and let worms, composting microorganisms and nature do the rest? The theory behind this is the same as regular composting in a bin, however with notable exceptions. It will take longer to compost because it's buried and not exposed to oxygen, not as hot, not as exposed to the thriving organisms that are already at work in your compost bin. But some aspects can work in your advantage because it's mostly only the top 12 inches of soil you cultivate when you are growing plants. So any depth under that level you can bury the slower compostable items that you wouldn't put in a compost bin, like sticks, wood chips, nutshells, etc. These things will take several years to fully break down, but think of them as extra slow release fertilizer. Then on top of them you can bury extra vegetation products you're balking at putting in your compost bin because you've already reached their limit, like extra palm fronds, leaves, bark, the heap of cardboard things you saved in your shed like the box the fridge came in. These items will break down relatively quickly in the medium term but provide an excellent sanctuary and food for the composting microorganisms. And as they say, if you build it, they will come. And so will the worms and good soil builders. They just need somewhere to come, live and eat. Then on top of that lot, put the light compostable items you know compost quickly like thin cardboard rolls, eggshells, shredded paper, organic kitchen waste, grass clippings and other fast compostable item ingredients. You'll need to be more mindful of this top layer, especially if you intend to use the area sooner than later, by balancing what you put into it. You need to think of this top layer more like normal compost, half browns, the other half greens, etc. Don't put a ton of one product in and expect the best. If you do, this may change the pH of your soil or take the microorganisms longer to process. For example, if you decide to compost a large amount of coffee grounds or citrus like oranges or lemons, you will need to leave the area fallow for at least 6 months. Depending on the quantities, you may need a soil tester to check the pH of the soil. But again, this is all dependent on how far down you bury these items. So all this is dependent on your individual situation and your time frame to use the area. Either way, what you put in will eventually decompose, leaving your soil full of essential nutrients you can use to grow a garden. I've always said don't compost dead animals or meat and bone in a compost bin because it will turn the bin rancid. This, however, is a different story. You can bury meat or an animal very deep. I still wouldn't do it myself because we only have a small yard, but this is a perfect opportunity if you have the room. Dead animals and meat will compost well, just make sure it's deep enough so you won't accidentally uncover it. You may also wish to keep some mesh over the area so your dog or other animal doesn't dig it up. That's a problem you just don't need. Top tip. A note of caution, even the kitchen waste is like a smorgasbord to creatures in your area, so make sure you make a reasonable attempt to put at least 6 inches of soil over the kitchen waste, otherwise you may be feeding the local wildlife. Feel free to give us a thumbs up if you found this helpful. Subscribe and share with friends if you want to see more related content. If you haven't already seen it, check out our other how-to videos for top tips on all things garden. I hope this helps.